It's very worrying to have, you know, sort of set up this super Congress. I mean, it's just very, very troublesome. Right? So that's enough to get you started, I think. So, yes, sir, down back. Speak up so I don't have to repeat it.
Yeah, are there any constitutional challenges to the super Congress concept?
He asked if there are constitutional challenges to super Congress. None that I'm aware of, none that have been brought up. I mean, it's called someone told me what the name was. It's a Joint Select Committee on Debt and Deficit Reduction or something. So Congress creates Joint Select Committees all the time. Waiving the rules of the House and the Senate, that's not protected by the Constitution. It's been done in trade deals for years. So no, I don't think there's any way to constitutionally challenge it. So.
What about challenging?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
On January 21st, 2010, the United States Supreme Court, with a vote 5-4, declared corporations to be people. Now that corporations want to be people, they should be treated as people and pay their fair share of the taxes we taxpayers pay. None of the corporations filed as a person a personal tax return.
Speaking to that. Then
Yeah, good idea.
Go ahead. No, okay, well, I'm
None of the
listening.
corporations filed as a person a personal tax return.
No, I can repeat it if necessary. Go ahead.
By not filing, they are delinquent in paying their taxes and subject to paying penalties. IRS ruling says that if you people have a salary of $600, you are required to pay federal income tax. Therefore, the corporations, now identified as persons, also are required to pay income taxes along. Corporation now being identified as the person should be required to report their taxes using the same schedules as we taxpayers are required to do.
Okay.
Good idea.
All right.
Good idea.
If you couldn't hear the whole thing, he was talking about the Supreme Court decision, which was they decided a case that wasn't before them, but that's not judicial activism. And they decided not only that you know, corporations for purposes of elections should be people, but they should be super people, because actually they don't have the same restrictions. If you, sir, had, you know, if you had a pile of money and you wanted to contribute to a political candidate, you can give two $2,400 contributions, and it has to be disclosed in an election cycle. If you wanted to set up a super PAC as a really rich individual and go after some individual member of Congress or after the president, you would have to file a form and your name would be attached to it. Corporations, under their ruling, are allowed, after, you know, overruling a law that had been in place since 1916, outlawing corporate contributions from political elections, they're now allowed not only to contribute unlimited amounts of corporate money, not PAC money, but corporate money, they don't have to disclose it. And they can do it secretly. And so actually they've been given more rights. You know, this is a problem that's been growing over the years. It has both to do with decisions that money is speech and corporate rights, and it's a whole series of Supreme Court decisions that led to this. Kurt Schrader has introduced a bill that would say, you know, Congress has the right to regulate who contributes and in what amounts they contribute, and expenditures also in federal elections, and states have the same right for state elections, and that's a constitutional amendment. I'm going to say, he just introduced it the day before we left. I'm going to sign on to it. That's a start, but the only way we can fix this is with a constitutional amendment, because this court has made this ruling based on the Constitution. Either we get a new court, or we have a constitutional amendment, and this court's probably not going anywhere in the near future. So that would be the way to deal with that. So, yes.
I come from an area, I just moved here from an area where our representative wouldn't even listen to anybody who thought differently than me. I'm delighted to be in your district, where I agree with almost everything you've done, but I was wondering, as your constituents who believe the way you do, how can we help influence other representatives and senators who disagree with you?
I won't want to embarrass your former representative and ask where he came from, but anyway. Look, I mean, I really believe in, you know, the democratic process, grassroots and organizing, and, you know, affiliating yourself with groups that are advocating for issues or that you care about. That's, you know, pretty much on a national basis. To be truthful, I mean, probably, you know, you could write to Kurt Schrader, our districts intersect, you know, but, you know, if you write to a representative from Iowa, unless they're thinking of running for president, it's very unlikely they're going to respond or care, because you're never going to be able to vote for or against them. That's the way it works. You know, senators, obviously statewide constituency, so, you know, you can have an impact on our 2 senators. You could, you know, I mean, I think the Oregon delegation's pretty good, although, you know, we can't answer everybody else's mail and that. So you're really limited electorally, except with the exception of president, obviously. But you aren't limited in terms of trying to expand your influence through affiliating, you know, with a group that's organizing nationally and pushing issues that you really care about. You know, participating, you know, in social media and other things. Just try and get the buzz out there, try and get things moving, you know, and engaging in lawful protest. But I mean, those are pretty much the options that you got. So, yeah. So, yes, sir.
So the topic of money in politics came up, which makes me wonder. I've often asked the question. In fact, I've tried to get Senator Wyden to answer this question. So my perception is that we, the people, own the airwaves, and through the FCC, we have the ability to make broadcast media anyway serve the public good, and we could, by changing the rules of the FCC, require that anyone running for a national office or a significant office receive a certain number of free air hours on all that broadcast media, and no one ever talks about that we could just change the rules and take the money out of politics. So I'd like to have you respond whether or not that's true or a misperception of mine.
Well, we had something called the Fairness Doctrine until sometime in the Reagan administration. I remember exactly when that the Fairness Doctrine went away, and it just expired. It was never reauthorized. The Fairness Doctrine said we own the public airways. That's well established. And that it would be in the public interest to have balance, and the balance being if you present not news, but you present an opinion, that you're obligated to give time for someone with an opposing and legitimately opposing opinion. That expired. I've been on a bill for years to reinstate it. Louise Slaughter from New York keeps introducing the bill. I think we get fewer and fewer sponsors every Congress. We had one great opportunity when we were converting from analog to digital. The digital spectrum was incredibly valuable. And at the time, there were a number of us who recommended that in, you know, giving, that basically at the end of giving away the digital spectrum, with the idea we'd get the analog spectrum back, you know, et cetera, that at that point would have been the appropriate time to require public service in terms of elections and a certain amount of time allocated to the broadcasters. Well, there was some belief, you know, there was a little flurry over that. That never went anywhere. And so we ended up, they got the digital spectrum with no requirements. And the problem today is, even if you could reinstate the Fairness Doctrine, so much of media today isn't broadcast. You know, stuff that comes over cable, that principle doesn't apply. You know, satellite, if it's a private satellite, that principle doesn't apply. So even if we could reinstate the Fairness Doctrine, it would have limited applicability for broadcast networks who still use the public airwaves. It would have some impact, obviously, and reinstate some sense of fairness. Then it got even worse in '96 with telecommunications deregulation. I was one of 16 people in the House to vote against it out of 435. Al Gore said it was going to be better than sliced bread, and I said, I really don't think it's going to work out that way, because I don't understand why allowing Rupert Murdoch to own newspapers, radio, and television is going to somehow better live in the public discourse in this country, which is what that '96 Act did. It did away with things that restricted one person from owning various types of media and certain amounts of concentration within certain markets. It pretty much deregulated all that. There's still some minimal requirements. So we really moved in a different direction. The only potential saving grace these days really is, you know, the social media, the internet. But then again, you have to be very careful about what the information is you obtain on the internet and where it came from, because there are a lot of you know, there's bad stuff out there that disguises as real stuff. So, but it is being used somewhat effectively to try and balance things, but it's not as effective as the broadcast in your face in your home. So